What we're going to be doing is writing sequences. This is the converse of what we've been doing before. Before we're given a sequence and we have to find the equation. This time what we're going to do is we're given either a recursive for the first four or an explicit for the next four. So looking at this, first thing that we have to do is we have to decide if this is an arithmetic or geometric sequence. Notice that for letter A, we're multiplying by -7. That means that our first term is 4. Then 4 times -7 is -28. And then -28 times -7 gives us a positive 196. I'm using a calculator here. Then I take the 196, I times it by -7, and I get -1372, 1,372. And that right there is my sequence. For letter B, notice that it looks identical, but instead of multiplying, what we're doing is we're subtracting 7. So with my sequence, I have 4. I subtract 7 and get -3. I subtract 7 and get -10. I subtract 7 and get -17. And that right there would be my sequence. Pause the video and try those next two on your own. So for letter C, -6 is my first term. Then I'm adding 3, so that would be -3. I add 3 to get 0. I add 3 to get 3, and that would be my sequence. And then for letter D, notice that I'm multiplying by 1/4. So I start off with 16, and then 1/4 of 16, or basically dividing it by 4, would be 4. Dividing it by 4 again would be 1, and dividing it by 4 again would be 1/4. Oops. So let's try that again, and that would be 1/4. Now, those were recursive forms. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the explicit forms. So once again, the key thing to do is decide if it's arithmetic or geometric. Notice that this is a linear equation. For letter B, this is exponential. Linear equations are always arithmetic, and exponential are always geometric. So our first term is really easy because when we plug in a 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 times -2 is 0, plus 12 is 12. So our first term is 12, or if you remember the formula, that first number is the first term. Then what we're doing is we're subtracting 2 each time. So that would be 10 and 8 and 6. Now let's say you didn't know you were subtracting 2. If we were to plug in a 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 times -2 is -2, plus 12 is 10. So we can see that we're going down by 2. Now letter B, in the same way, our first term, if we plug in a 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything to the 0 is 1, times 3 is 3. Or you could recognize that that is your first term. If we plug in a 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 to the 1 is 2, times 3 is 6. So notice that we're multiplying by 2, or you might have noticed that our common ratio is 2. So then what we have is 12 and 24. Pause the video and try the next two. So for letter C, our first term we know is -6, and what we're doing is we're adding 5. So that's -1 and 4 and 9. And then for letter D, we start off with 24. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by 1/3, which is the same thing as dividing it by 3. So that would be 8 and 8/3 and 8/9.